As many of you know, I was recently in Anaheim for D23. And naturally, while I was down there, I went to Disneyland. I haven't been on this side of the country, let alone Disneyland, in over 20 years. So coming back was a bit of an experience. I have a lot of thoughts. Expect Disneyland content in the coming months. Anyways, my trip happened to coincide with Disneyland's annual Halloween party, Oogie Boogie Bash. Despite going to the Disney parks for a majority of my life, I have never attended any of the holiday parties. I went to Very Merry Christmas Party like once when I was a kid, and I've never been to the Halloween parties. I assumed that Halloween events would be happening while the convention was going on, since Not So Scary starts in August, so I kinda planned for that. But, as it turns out, not only was that true, but there was going to be a night specifically for D23 members happening the same weekend as the expo. And naturally, that's the one I ended up attending. Now, there are a lot of Disney fans out there who want to attend Oogie Boogie Bash, but can't for a variety of reasons, which is why I wanted to bring you guys along. If you're interested in attending either this year or in a future year, you'll get an idea of what the event is like, and you can decide if it's for you. Either way, this video is going to be what happened to me during Oogie Boogie Bash. Once again, I am not sponsored by Disney, and no one is paying me to make this video. This isn't going to be a review of the night, though I'll definitely give my thoughts. This is just a summary of everything that happened. But first, Disney has been holding Halloween events at the parks for many years. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party has been held at the Magic Kingdom for almost every year since 1995. I talked more about Not So Scary in my Hallowishes video, so if you want to learn more, you can go watch that. But that's over at Disney World. What about Disneyland? Disneyland's first Halloween party, Mickey's Halloween Party, was first held in 1995. However, after only 2 years, it was discontinued. Why? I honestly have no clue. Maybe the Halloween party market was too crowded in Southern California. I mean, you have Not Scary Farm, you have Halloween Horror Nights, and probably a few others I'm forgetting. And maybe it didn't do that well the first 2 years, so it kind of scared them away from doing full-scale Halloween parties at Disneyland. However, Mickey's Halloween Party returned in 2005, held at Disney's California Adventure. The party grew, eventually moving to Disneyland proper in 2010. However, it was moved back to DCA in 2019, which is when the party was officially renamed the Oogie Boogie Bash. The event is of course named for Oogie Boogie, the antagonist from The Nightmare Before Christmas. The second party was held in 2021 for reasons, making this the third year they've done this. And I got to be there for it. Here's how the night went. So I left the convention center at around 3 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock, we started walking over to the Disneyland Resort to get to the party. As a Disney World person, it is incredibly strange that Disneyland is just right in the middle of everything. It's something I always heard about.
Outside the gates of his carefully constructed make-believe world, a disorganized mass of hotels, motor courts, and diners sprang up.
But seeing it makes it feel so strange. Like, here's Disneyland, and here's the rest of the world. The walk from our hotel to Disneyland took about 20 to 30 minutes. And let me just say, walking there in Southern California during a heat wave, after you've been at a convention for an entire day, I don't recommend it. Use public transit or an Uber or something. Anyways, we get through security. It's like every other security I've been to in a Disney park, and we arrived at DCA. And this is a good time as any to remind you that this was my first time back here in 20 years. I went to Disneyland once all the way back in 2001, and it was the exact same year that DCA opened. Hell, not even that. It had literally just opened. It hadn't even been open for like a few months. They had letters in the front gate. Cars Land and Adventures Campus didn't exist. I got to ride Superstar Limo multiple times. It's changed quite a bit, so this might as well have been my first time here. So we entered the park at around 5 o'clock, and we were very hungry, so we went to Cars Land to get something to eat at Flo's Cafe. I had the Ka-Chow burger, and I liked it enough that I had it again a few days later. Look, I'm not a foodie. I don't care about Disney snacks. But once that was finished, we explored Cars Land for a little bit. In addition to the decorations, 2 of the rides actually have special seasonal overlays. Mater's Junkyard Jamboree became Mater's Graveyard Jamboree, and Luigi's Roll-Lickin' Roadsters became Luigi's Honkin' Halloween. Side note, Mater doing the Spanish spiel in his ride? Comedic gold. Luigi had only a 15-minute wait, so we went in line, and almost immediately after, the ride broke down. Lots of people left to go do something else, the quitters, but we stuck it out and eventually got on. And it's a fun time. The Halloween overlay doesn't change a lot. There are a couple new decorations and a new song that plays during the ride. Same goes for Mater, which I ended up riding a few days later. If you'll allow me to go off topic for a bit, I think Cars Land is incredibly well done. It looks just like the movie, with all the different places in Radiator Springs that you can visit. And Radiator Spring Racers is pretty cool too. You ride around in a car, there's a little dark ride segment, and an outdoor segment that you can drive through really fast. It's basically Test Track with a Cars paint job. But a well done one, to be fair. I actually rewatched Cars not too long ago, and it's a lot funnier than I remembered it. I like it more as an adult than I did when I was a kid, so I feel like I can appreciate a land like this nowadays. Okay, tangent over, moving on. By the time we got done with all of that, the party had already started. You were given a map at the gate, but it wasn't very good. The trick-or-treating spots were marked, but none of the attractions were, so unless you knew the park already, you couldn't figure out where the heck everything was. And here's another thing. The trick-or-treating spots were where all of the characters were, but they didn't mark who was going to be in those specific locations, so what was even the point? It was easier to just go up to cast members and ask where a specific character was. Anyways, Cars Land is right next door to Avengers Campus, and that's where our first trick-or-treating spot was. The way it worked is that you went into a queue and walked your way through it. You opened your bag, and cast members would give you a handful of candy at specific spots throughout the line, usually 3 to 4. By the time you got to the end, there was a character there that you could get a picture of or talk to. Pretty much all of the characters were villains. And this is how all the meet and greets work, so I won't repeat myself. The character at Avengers Campus was Agatha Harkness from WandaVision. She was in the plaza where Doctor Strange does a show during normal park hours. So at the Halloween parties, the adults are allowed to come to the parks dressed in costumes. I wore the same thing I wore at the expo that day, my stretching portrait Constance costume. However, at the expo, I got a lot of people asking if I was dressed like Agatha, which I can kind of see. I mean, I had the cameo, the white collar, and the little shawl. The colors aren't red at all, and I had my hair up, but the basic construct is there. And you know who else thought I was dressed like Agatha? Agatha herself. I didn't get our interaction on film, but she got a surprised look on her face and looked really happy to see me. Disney character performers are just the best, as you'll be seeing throughout the rest of this video. And while we're talking about it, I really like Avengers Campus. I'm not much of an MCU person nowadays, but I overall like this new land. I love how all the characters walk around and interact with each other. I really like the Spider-Man ride, Web Slingers. I didn't get to ride Mission Breakout, either the normal version or Monsters After Dark, but I've heard nothing but good things. If it had like one more big e-ticket ride, I think that'd tie the land all together. And according to the expo, we're getting one in the future, so that'll be cool, I guess. Once we did that, we went back near the entrance. All of the meet and greets in the area had kinda long lines, so we went to see Mickey's PhilharMagic. I last saw this when I was at Magic Kingdom back in May, and I definitely think it's better there. The theater was actually built for PhilharMagic, and the screen is big enough to accommodate the entire movie. The one at DCA wasn't, so even though it's still the same film, the experience isn't quite as good. But regardless of that, PhilharMagic is always fun. We went into the Art of Animation building where Oogie Boogie was. Unlike the face character who improv'd, Oogie just kinda mimed along to a pre-recorded soundtrack. Across the way was Madam Min from Sword in the Stone, who you almost never see. I think it was the first time she'd ever appeared as a live character, so that's pretty cool. I love that they're bringing in characters you wouldn't expect. We had a couple of characters we wanted to see before the night was over. One of them was Maleficent, and she was backed by Condor Flats. Her set naturally had her stone throne from Sleeping Beauty, and same with everyone else, the actress did an amazing job playing her. Anyways, Condor Flats is where Soarin' is, so we hopped on that afterwards. Even though I've been to DCA before, I actually missed out on Soarin' when I went since I was too short. I didn't get to ride it until it came to Epcot a few years later, which made getting off this attraction feel a little strange. I'm used to getting lunch or hopping on Living with the Land right afterwards. But hey, it's Soarin', it's a classic. Nearby at Grizzly Peak was the Villains Grove attraction. It's a walkthrough where a bunch of Disney villains have like little themed areas you can look at, and you can do some trick-or-treating while you're there. It's the closest the American parks are ever gonna get to doing like a full-blown haunted house. We got in line for it, but it was kinda long, so we decided to bag it. We ran into the parade on our way out, which was halfway over when we got there, but we managed to catch the whole thing later on, so put a pin in it, there'll be more on that later. Also, apologies for how this footage looks. I'm still trying to figure out how to use my phone's camera.
I love you, Anastasia! I
love you! We were so tired from being on our feet for most of the day that we decided to sit down for a few minutes at Pixar Pier. We had one of the lemon snow cones, which were really good. Unpopular opinion, I kinda like them more than Dole Whip. After that, we hopped on Toy Story Mania, which is always a good time, but not as good as my score. Though you have to go up a flight of stairs to get to the exit, which I don't really recommend doing in a Victorian morning dress. While we're on the topic, Pixar Pier. I have no memory of Paradise Pier, so I can't speak on its quality. However, I'm of the opinion that building a generic carnival at a Disney park was a stupid idea. You could probably go to an actual one in California for a lot cheaper. So personally, I don't mind the retheming. The Pixar characters don't really add a lot to the atmosphere, admittedly, but I don't think they take away anything either. It's a net positive in my opinion. And before you ask, yes, I wouldn't mind them doing away with Dinorama for the same reason. The only other character any of us wanted to meet was Dr. Facilier. I love Princess and the Frog, and Facilier is one of my favorite Disney villains, so I knew I wanted to see him. And I know I praised all of the actors, but oh my goodness, Dr. Facilier's was amazing. He didn't just nail down the mannerisms and the attitude, but the voice. He sounded so much like Keith David, it was kind of insane.
Let me know when you're ready to put it to bed. I've got just the thing.
Once we did that, the only thing left that we wanted to see was the Frightfully Fun Parade. We found a place to sit in front of the Carthay, which had a little projection show that kept us entertained. A few minutes before, there was a little procession with the Headless Horseman. It was really cool. They even had Ichabod in it. And it played in front of both parades, which apparently doesn't happen at Not So Scary. The parade itself was pretty good too. It had everything you'd ever want from a spooky Disney parade. The floats were really well designed. I loved all the different characters. That song was stuck in my head for the rest of the night. It was a fun time. And since I know my audience, enjoy all the Haunted Mansion stuff that was in it. But once the parade was over, we started the long trek out of DCA and back to our hotel room. And since this was a special D23 night, we got a free poster on our way out. Which was cool, I guess. Like I've said, there was a lot of stuff that we just didn't get to do. We didn't get to do Villains Grove, there were a lot of characters we missed out on, I didn't get to do Mater's Ride. And while it's great that there's a lot of stuff to do, it might be overwhelming. It's impossible to get everything done during one party. So you kind of have to pick and choose what you want to do and just be okay with what you missed. I know I've already harped on the park map, but it bears repeating, it stinks. Unless you know the park's layout already, it's impossible to figure out where things are in relation to each other. And the fact that they tell you where characters are but don't tell you who's gonna be there just boggles the mind. We walked around for like 5 minutes trying to find Dr. Facilier, only to find out from a cast member that he was back by the place we started. I think they expect you to just use the Disneyland app for navigation, but I don't want to be wasting battery power on my phone trying to figure out where a character I want to meet is. And while going trick-or-treating here was fun, I didn't like that it was so tied to the meet and greets. I feel like in addition to those, they could have also done what Not So Scary does, and have little treat stations scattered throughout the parks that you could just walk up to and get candy from. I think having that alternative for people who maybe don't want to go up and do the characters would be nice. I mentioned that this was a night specifically for D23 members, and you know, personally I didn't really feel like it was that different. Like there wasn't anything particularly special about it. I wouldn't complain, except that tickets were more expensive than the rest of the parties. We got the poster on our way out, but that was kinda it. I don't know, maybe having special treats or special merch specifically for the party would have made that extra money worth it. Also, this might be personal preference, but I don't understand why this event isn't at Disneyland. I mean, Disneyland is the more iconic park with the more famous attractions, and it gets the Halloween decorations, and it gets Haunted Mansion Holiday, and they have the fireworks, which they can't really do at DCA. It just seems like the better option overall. I'm sure the people in charge have their reasons as to why the party is in the park that it is. I'd just like to know why. Like I've said throughout the video, all the characters were great. The actors did an amazing job, and you could tell they were having a lot of fun playing off of the guests. And I liked that there were a bunch of characters you wouldn't normally see at the parks. In addition to the ones I mentioned, they had Mother Gothel, Ernesto de la Cruz, Bruno, and even Mickey and Donald in their Kingdom Hearts outfits. If you like meeting rare characters, this is a great event. With all the special events going on at the party, you might think to skip going on rides. At first, I didn't even think a lot of them would be open. But no, they were. This is actually the perfect time to ride them, especially the really popular ones. Pretty much all the attractions were walk-ons with less than 15-minute waits. If you like DCA's rides and want to get on as many of them as you can without paying for Lightning Lane, this party is the chance to do it. Granted, the party costs money, but whatever, you get the idea. When I do these kinds of stuff I like, stuff I didn't like sections in my videos, I always feel like since the stuff I didn't like section is longer, you might think that I hate whatever I'm talking about. But that's not always true. I've already told you a lot of stuff I liked in this video. I'd just be repeating myself if I said it all again. So, did I enjoy Oogie Boogie Bash? Yes, I did. I loved going to the event, and it was nice to be back at DCA for the first time in over 2 decades. Even the parts I wasn't really crazy about didn't distract from how much I enjoyed the whole. Would I attend again? I'm not sure. I feel like these kind of parties are a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me. I experienced it once, and unless they change it up radically in a future year, I don't really feel the need to attend again. I am glad I went though, and I'm actually more curious about attending other seasonal events like Not So Scary. This is all, of course, my opinion. I've talked to lots of people who love Oogie Boogie Bash and say it's their favorite Disney Halloween party. I've also talked to people who prefer other seasonal events. Like I said, this isn't some kind of definitive review of the party. I'm just talking about my experiences, and you can draw your own conclusions from there. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Either way, I hope this can help you figure that out in the future. And that concludes the video. If you've only seen this in my D23 video, this isn't my usual content. I don't really get out much. We'll be back to business as usual next week. For now, I'll pass the question off to you. Have you attended Oogie Boogie Bash or any other Disney Halloween event? If so, what did you think of them? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.